The West Virginia Mountaineers are marching into Tempe, Arizona to play the Arizona State Sun Devils at 1 o'clock Eastern. Can the Mountaineers find a way to bring home win number 5? And what are our keys to the game? Find out on this episode of the Coal Country Podcast.
You are now entering Coal Country.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Coal Country Podcast, where we discuss everything WWE sports. I'm your host, Ian McIntyre. Joining me, as always, Matt Howe and Matt Loams. Gentlemen, how are we?
I'm happy to be here. How are you guys?
I'm feeling good. We're missing Tyler, so that sucks. He'll be on for the next episode. RIP. But, yeah, excited to be here. Excited to preview this Arizona State game. So it's a 1 o'clock Eastern game, so it'll be played at 11 over there, which is an early kickoff. But good time for us. Should be interesting. 4-6, looking to become 5-6. Never thought I would be saying that 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to at least have something to be looking forward to these over the weekend, you know.
Yeah, the UCF game kind of made me lose a lot of hope, not only for this year, but for next year too. And it's nice to have a little bit of that back and to look forward to actually try and compete with a very, very solid Arizona State team who arguably, if they still had Sam Levitt, would be competing for the Big 12 title right now. So definitely going to be a hard team to march into their stadium and try to beat. So quick stats on Arizona State, in case y'all are wondering, because again, Sam Levitt is missing. Jeff Sims has stepped in for him and has actually done decently. Overall this season, though, Arizona State, 24.7 points per game, so a relatively mid-size scoring range for them, which tailors to us relatively well, although our point differential, which we were sort of discussing before the episode started, does not favor us in any way. So something to look forward to. Also, 409 yards per game for Arizona State is a very solid number as well. And Matt Howe, like you said, our defense in conference, really, especially compared to other conference teams, has not been where it needs to be able to compete in the upper echelon in the Big 12.
Yeah, especially in passing yards, we have allowed the most passing yards. In terms of yards per game, we're eclipsed by the Cowboys, thankfully. You wouldn't want to be worse than them in any stats this year. But I think it's interesting because, especially at the beginning of the season, we were saying our defense this year is the defense to have. And it certainly has had its ups and downs. I think if we have a solid game defensively, we've got a shot. We're still figuring things out, which I hate to say that this late into the season, but I think we've kind of gotten into our rhythm offensively. But our game against Houston, I thought our defense looked okay, but I think we were kind of saved by the problems that they were having offensively. You don't want to bank on another team making a mistake in order for you to win. So we really got to capitalize on those mistakes if they come, but you got to be prepared to win the game outright, not just let the opponent give it to you.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And, talking about the defense still, in our Colorado postgame show, I talked about how it seemed like they just had better athletes than us, in terms of size and stature, especially. We just had a hard time stopping their receiving core. So that's going to be something to look out for. Although Jordan Tyson is missing for Arizona State as well. So not only do they not have their starting quarterback, they don't have their wide receiver one either. They do have receivers that will step up, and we'll talk about one of them in a little bit. But going to be a really important factor in this Arizona State game. And also, Matt Loams, we were sort of talking about how Arizona State has performed throughout this season in each quarter. And you mentioned that the first quarter is kind of the time that we need to jump on Arizona State and try to get some points up on the board, correct?
Yes, I was looking at Parker Fleming's graph on point differentials on X, and Yeah, according to that, first quarter is really where we need to make our mark. Looking at our point differential, you can kind of see early season we were making up a lot of points during the fourth quarter. But yeah, in terms of the game, you have to take control of it early, and you have to put Jeff Sims on his toes.
Yeah, and it's going to be super important for us to come out the way that we came out in the Houston game. We went up 14-0, bang, bang, 2 straight possessions. Nobody expected it. And I think that's how we have to approach this Arizona State game. I mean, judging off of the graph as well, but also you want to start any game like that. And you want to start a game like that, especially against a team like Arizona State, who shouldn't be 6-3. So it's going to be super important. And looking at Jeff Sims a little bit as well, his 2025 stats I have scrolling along the bottom here, 37 of 73 passing on the year, not a number that jumps out at you. So, when we're talking about the defense, again, a little bit favors them, right? We're going to be looking for more breakups, better coverage. However, one thing that Jeff Sims does very, very well, as you can see by the stats as well, is run the ball. 330 yards on the ground, a season long of 88, which was last week against Iowa State. Took it in for the touchdown. It's going to be hard to contain him, and I think it's necessary to try to balance this out because, in my mind, you want him to try to throw the ball under pressure. The problem can arise when you bring pressure to the quarterback. You can miss and give him a lane to run at the same time. Jeff Sims seems like one of those guys who makes up his mind to run out of the pocket quicker than he does on who to throw the ball to. So it's going to be hard to have guys to try to contain him within the first down range as well, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So Jeff Sims is a guy to watch out for. Has thrown one interception. However, has been relatively efficient with his opportunities. We want to force him to throw the ball 100%. And our D line has been relatively good at that the past few conference games. We talked a lot about our 7 sacks against Colorado. That's going to be important. We need to try to get Jeff Sims down behind the line of scrimmage as much as possible. Again, another part of pressure. So super important. Our D line, the guys on our D line are more than capable of doing that as well. Trying to get some tip passes as well. I think that's contributed to his 50% passing completion percentage. But yeah, D line's gonna have to step up. Linebackers, we got Reed Carrico, absolute dog. I'm sure he's going to be looking to get some sacks and some broken passes, deflections, all those things. Coates is out there as well. Coates is going to be doing his job. Again, if we look at some other Arizona State players here as well, Raleek Brown, Loams, I think another thing we were talking about was our leniency on the opposing run game. What was the stat that you told me about the Colorado run game and how we allowed them to run way more than they should have?
So Colorado, it was more or less on our running performance against their running defense, actually. But I'll say the stat since we're mentioning it. They are ranked 130th out of 136 in FBS, all the FBS teams in rushing defense, essentially in yards allowed per game. We didn't even hit their average. We were below their average. And that is the worst team in the Big 12 against, in terms of rushing defense. We're going into Arizona State, who I believe, cherry picking it, it's either 31 or 34th in yards allowed per game on the ground.
In the conference.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to get that going if we see a performance similar to last week.
Yep, got to be able to stop the run game. We're going to have to strike a very particular balance on our defense here coming out to defend Arizona. We got to look out for the run game and look out for Jeff Sims. If he breaks free of the pocket, he's going to try to go, and he can go fast. So you got to be watching those two guys in the backfield. And also, when it comes to receivers, Chaman Mateer, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, their tight end, 349 yards and 3 touchdowns on the year. And if I look back at the Iowa State box score from last week, he had 6 receptions for 68 yards and a touchdown. So he sort of took over the Jordan Tyson absence in the Arizona State receiving game. So he is definitely going to have to be a person that we key in on. And I was saying before we started recording, we were playing so many like NFL caliber receivers this year. You had Eric McAllister for TCU. And Houston and Colorado had their own guys. Their names are escaping me, as Tyler would say. But yeah, we're going to have to key in on their tight end. And what makes it easier to accept in my mind is he's a tight end and not a receiver. So hopefully that sort of change in personnel and the way we line up can make it a little easier to try to contain the tight end. However, we saw against Houston, we gave up a touchdown to the tight end. So I guess we'll see. Now, looking over at their defense, Keyshawn Elliott, a linebacker that I think is going to be playing in the NFL, he has 77 total tackles, and 40 of those are solo, which to me is a crazy ratio as a linebacker. You have 40 solo tackles at this point in the season. And what was it? Only 4 sacks, but I feel like he could have gotten a lot more if he really wanted to. He's that type of guy. Not only will you have to look for him to bring pressure to Scotty Fox, you're going to have to look for him to, try to pick off some balls. He has an interception this year. So you're going to have to look out for him in the passing game. And yeah, we can move over and talk about our offense a little bit. Again, we mentioned starting fast. That's going to be the key to this entire game. In the bigger picture, starting fast. Do you guys think that starts with the pass game, or do you think that starts with the run game?
I mean, you got to try and figure out if you can at least run the ball against them. I think we're going to find out pretty quickly if this is going to be a one-dimensional game from our end. But yeah, I mean, one thing noticing, I mean, I watched the highlights, I guess, of the Iowa State game, just trying to catch myself up on everything going on. And Iowa State excelled on quick 8 to 10 yard passes, either over the middle or just along the hashes. And they were first read type throws. So as soon as the ball snapped, they have their receiver, they have their guy, they know where the ball is going. I think that might play to Scotty's strengths here because he's young. He's not entirely trying to make it up as he goes. He's really trying to run the play as designed. So hopefully he can execute to the standards that we need to beat Arizona State here. But, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
I agree with that. I mean, you always got to run to figure out where the defense lies so that you can take what they give you, right? So Dior is going to play a big part in the opening part of this game. Sincere Bowers as well. He'll fill in. He'll be the more speedy back, but we're going to have to figure out quick whether we can run the ball because, again, you said Scotty thrives on this type of plays where it's by design and he knows where he wants to throw the ball before the ball is snapped. So in my mind, I think RPOs play perfectly into our hands here against this Arizona State defense. So you have a guy like Dior Hubbard who can bail you out if your initial read isn't there. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I definitely anticipate in terms of the rushing attack here, it's going to be another game of yards after contact. Their defensive line is very stout. They can clog the gaps early. They seemingly always have the jump on the offensive line. So I don't really trust our offensive line to really get off the ball and push guys, make holes. So it's going to be tough.
yeah, that's another thing I was going to bring up. I think you guys remember watching the Houston game. It seemed like when we came out and got to that 14-0 lead to start the game, it looked like our offensive line got some push, like out of nowhere. I hadn't seen that out of them all year. And they came out and got a little bit of push and gave Dior Hubbard enough space to be able to go out and create a play. So I think that's going to be vital coming out as a part of that quick start. If you're on the O line, you got to get some push initially. And again, that's going to play to Scotty's strengths because take what you get. So, Keyshawn Elliott, again, another guy to look out for. He'll probably catch on to that pretty quick. But that's what you got to do.
Yeah, definitely.
I think for our success offensively, their rushing defense is better than their passing defense. So I think we're definitely going to turn to the run a lot, but I think I hope to see a little more passing than in previous games. I don't think it'll quite be like what we saw against TCU at home. And that's another point. I think the environment and playing an away game, especially against an Arizona State team, I think they have a much better fan base than they get credit for. The environment is going to be way different. I would much prefer this game to be at home especially because I do think this is a winnable game. Not to spoil our picks that we're going to do later, but it's going to be very, very tough to play in that environment and play well. But definitely, I look to see more passing because, like I said, their passing defense is not as strong as some of the other teams that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think if you're Kenny Dillingham in the Arizona State locker room, you're going to be talking about how West Virginia is kind of on a roll now. We haven't beaten the best teams, but we beat a ranked team in Houston, and we're sort of getting some momentum rolling. So I think that's going to be a thing that he's got to bring up in the locker room. You know, we got to show these guys early that they can't do what they need to do. But I think West Virginia, like you said, has the ability to do it. And again, not to spoil our picks for later, but this is a winnable game. And I think Loams would agree.
Yeah, definitely.
So before we, move on to the pick'ems and pick this game, do we have a Scotty Fox stat line prediction in terms of passing and rushing?
I'll throw out a number, probably 147, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
I'm hoping he has a couple more yards than that, but I think it'll probably be around that 150 mark. Again, hoping for no interceptions. I actually don't expect more than one. Don't want to see any, obviously, but I don't think he'll throw more than one interception unless if the game's getting away from us, or it's running down and we got to make up a deficit towards the end. Not to say that we would be playing careless, but when you're really trying to get the ball downfield, that's when those tend to pop up more. But I don't know. Can't see the future. I think maybe one interception.
See, the way I'm thinking here is I think Scotty actually hovers around the 200-yard mark, whether that be, like 180 to 220. I think he hovers around that area of 200 passing yards. And I think, Matt, you're right. Although I hope that it doesn't happen. I think he throws a pick. But I'm more along the lines of 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Whether his 2 touchdowns come from him running it in or passing it, I think he has 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, somewhere around the 200-yard mark. So I think it's going to be a solid game from Scotty because, again, Lomas, you were mentioning it, play by design and play easy. Don't overcomplicate things. And I think Scotty is going to be focusing on that, especially in a hostile road environment. So if he can do all those things, that's going to be an ideal game for him, minus the interception. But I think he can do it. So let's go ahead and move on to our pick'ems so that at the end we'll get to our game prediction for West Virginia. So week 12 pick'ems. Tyler has the overall records. I can't remember them off the top of my head. However, we got 10 games here. Instead of Tyler reading them, I'll read them, and then Matt Howley will go first. Lomas than me. I'll pick at the end. And then finally, we will give our score prediction for the Mountaineer Arizona State game. So starting out with Notre Dame, the game that we talked about on last episode with Narduzzi saying some weird things in his press conference about Notre Dame. Don't get where his head's at. But College Game Day is going to be here. We were at a College Game Day game. Matt, how were you in the band at that time? I
I
think you
was,
were.
yeah,
So
3 or 4 years ago.
we saw Lee Corso put on the Panther hat, sadly. But College Game Day is going to be there again. Who you got?
I think this is pretty simple. I mean, I know Pitt has kind of been on a roll since they made their change with quarterback, but I just think Notre Dame overall is a better team, and I think they are wildly outclassed in the coaching department. So, got to give it to the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, it's literally the same vein for me. I appreciate the run that Pitt has done, but unfortunately, it has not really been against good teams. So, what are you going to do about that? Really, in Notre Dame, I think that they're a good team. They're tested, so it's a no-brainer for me. I'll pick Notre Dame.
I'm going to pick Notre Dame here as well. We're all on the same page about that. You know, Pitt is in the conversation right now because of the ACC and how their title picture is shaped out, which I'm rooting for chaos. So let's go Blue Devils. But I don't know how you can pick against Notre Dame here. However, this is horrible for me to say as a Mountaineer fan. I'm rooting for Pitt because if Pitt wins and they lose the ACC, Notre Dame and Pitt will both not be in the playoff. Even though, I will admit, as much as I don't like Notre Dame, they have a good team. I like Marcus Freeman, so they'd be a good inclusion for the playoff. However, a 9-3 independent team ain't making it, so that'd be cool. So I am rooting for Pitt, but Notre Dame's going to win 100%. Tyler has Notre Dame as well, so he's on the same page as us. I'm going to read off his picks over here. It'll take me a second. So, all right, next game, if I can pull it up. Oklahoma going into Tuscaloosa to play the Crimson Tide. Who do you guys got here? Big one in the SEC.
So Alabama, other than their first game of the season, has looked very solid. Ty Simpson at quarterback is a Heisman candidate. I saw today that Oklahoma has never lost a regular season game against Alabama. And I think I'm rooting for the Sooners here, but I think Alabama takes it. It's at home. They're looking to finish the season undefeated other than the first game, which was not a conference game. I think they're going to come to play hard. I think it'll be a good game if Oklahoma can fix some of the errors we've seen out of them the past couple of weeks. But I think Alabama will take this one.
Important to note about that stat line, they've only met once the regular season. And it
Also
was a
true.
home game for the Sooners.
Also true.
I mean, I really just think Alabama's on a roll here. I know Oklahoma, they've had some injury concerns at different points throughout the year. They're kind of on an upswing. I mean, close loss to Ole Miss. I mean, they beat Tennessee on the road. That is a good win, but, the Tide keeps on rolling.
I agree with both of you guys. I think the Tide's got this. It's at home. I'm going to root for Alabama in the larger playoff picture as well. If I had to pick anyone to root for the national championship, it's Alabama for Nick Saban's sake and his ties to the Mountaineers in the state of West Virginia. So that's why I'm going to roll with Alabama, not in this game, but hopefully for a title. Tyler is with us as well. He picks Alabama. So moving on to the next game, Iowa, coming off a very close loss against Oregon at home, goes to face the Trojans of USC. Who you guys got in this one?
I got to give to USC here. Again, they have a pretty high-powered offense. If they're not number one anymore, they were for a very long time this season. And Iowa, I think they've had a good team relative to what they usually are, and especially with that close loss to Oregon at home. I think you got to give them credit for that. But I don't think they'll be able to manage a road win against USC this year.
I'm going to take the opposite. I think the Hawkeyes get it done. They've been in 3 ranked matchups this year. They've lost all 3, but they've been 1-score games every single time. So, the unstoppable force in the USC offense meets the immovable wall in the Iowa defense. I think they got to get it done at some point this year, and this is their last chance to do it. So give me Iowa.
I like the Iowa pick. I'm not going to lie. However, I'm going to take USC here. And it's off of my hunch that traveling time zones like that, although, it's only a few hours, it has to mess with you in some way. And I think even though Iowa is a fantastic team, again, lost to 3 ranked teams, but they were all 1-score games. I think this has the potential to be a very close game if Iowa's defense can show up and do something against this USC high-powered offense. And could be a shocker. However, I'm going to give USC home field advantage. Good offense normally beats good defense, but I guess we'll see. Let me check Tyler. He is on the USC train. So next game, Virginia, coming off a horrible loss to Wake Forest, correct? Wake Forest beat Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so going on the road to face the Duke Blue Devils to create potentially some ACC disaster classes of football. Who do you guys have here?
I mean, these teams, somehow are pretty close to being the two front runners, if they're not exactly the two front runners, in their conference. I think Virginia is who I would pick 2 weeks ago. But I don't know. I mean, they're both having struggles. I think this will be the worst game of the week, to be completely blunt. But I think it's at Duke. Give it to the Blue Devils.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, to me, Duke has a very similar problem to Pitt, where they haven't really played anybody, and the teams that they have played that are good, they've lost to. I mean, granted, they beat Clemson 46-45 on the road at Clemson, but the next week they just laid a goose egg and lost to UConn 37-34 at UConn. So it's a very unpredictable team for me. I guess in times like this, you got to pick the team that is trying to get it done. And I mean, UVA, they're the better team, but they're also playing like they're trying to give it away. So I agree that this game is going to be an absolute nightmare, but I just got to go with the ranked team here. So give me Virginia.
Lums, I'm with you. I'm going to take Virginia here. I think that Wake Forest game woke them up to what the heck they've been doing the past few weeks. And I think they're going to come out with a little bit of urgency. I think we saw the team that Virginia is supposed to be in that Louisville overtime win. And I think these guys wake up a little bit and try to do some of the same against Duke. And I think they can get the job done. Give me Virginia on the road. Let me check and see Tyler's pick. He is on the Blue Devil train, so he's picking Duke. Let's move on to the next game after that, which is Utah. The Utes travel on the road to play the Baylor Bears in Waco. Could be an important Big 12 game, guys. Who do you have?
I've liked Baylor all year, but they just have not performed as well as we've expected. I got to go with Utah. They have been completely dominant against everybody except for Texas Tech, and who else did they lose to?
BYU, right?
BYU. Rivalry game on the road, night game. That was a great game to watch. But other than that, they've just completely decimated everybody. Baylor's losses, I think, have mostly come from failures on the defense. And not only does Utah have a high-powered offense, but their defense is number 2 in the conference. And I don't think it'll be very close at all.
Yeah, there's definitely a clear-cut number 3. You can argue 1 and 2 in the Big 12, but there is a clear-cut number 3. It's Utah. Baylor struggle at times this year. You know, questions about their coach. I don't particularly care that it's at Baylor. I mean, Utah, I think, should win this pretty handily.
I agree with both of you guys. Utah's a clear number 3 in the conference. They're on the outside looking in for the playoffs. I think they got something to prove as well. And Baylor's defense, especially, has just been atrocious this season. And again, Lums, like you mentioned, their coach is on the hot seat. So he better come out and perform in this game if he wants to save his job. But I think Utah comes out and handles the Bears in Waco. Tyler is on the Utah train as well. So he picks the Utes. Next game, TCU, the Horned Frogs, go on the road to Provo to play BYU. Guys, who you got? This is another important Big 12 game.
So I think an upset is possible here. But I don't think TCU – I think TCU's consistent level is lower than BYU's consistent level. And BYU, I think, has been more consistent. So unless TCU really shows up, I think it's a really tough game for them. I've liked BYU this whole year. I know a lot of people are talking down on them. Now that they've lost the game, it's like, oh, well, we've known you're frauds all along. It just hasn't happened yet. I don't think that's the case. I think they're a very talented team. I think they're well coached. I think BYU takes this.
Yeah, I agree. TCU plays to a pretty consistent level, and if they were to pull off the upset, it's going to be because BYU gives it away. And quite honestly, I don't see BYU giving it away at home, primetime game. BYU is going to take it.
I'm with you guys too. I think this is a BYU game. It's their game to lose. The Horned Frogs, I think we said when they beat us, could they possibly be the most fraudulent 6-2 team in the country? Not necessarily saying that they're fraudulent, but could have an easier schedule than BYU or Texas Tech for that matter. So their talent's going to be tested in this game. However, Provo is a place to play. So it's going to be hard for them. And I think BYU pulls out the dub here. And Tyler goes with BYU as well. So, SEC game of the week. Texas goes on the road to play Georgia in Athens. Texas, I think this is going to be a very important game for them to win to prove that they should be in playoff conversations. But who do you guys have?
Yeah, Texas. I think Texas loses this game, and if and when this occurs, I think they need entirely dropped out of the playoff conversation because I don't think there's a path forward for them. I don't think there's enough games left in the season to make it to the SEC championship, let alone win. I also think they lose their at-large hopes. So I think Texas essentially is irrelevant after this game. Georgia has looked like a better football team when they've played people, and Texas has looked like they've gotten by with by the skin of their teeth often. So I don't think I think it should be a good game. It's so weird that Texas is still figuring stuff out. With all the resources that preseason, you look at Texas. Texas was my preseason number one pick in the country, and it's like they don't know what to do with the tools that they have because they are obviously a very talented team. I think they're starting to get into their rhythm, but I think it's too late in the season, and I think Georgia's already been there and will continue to show that this weekend.
Yeah, they're starting to get into their rhythm, but it's way too late given the teams left on their schedule. I mean, going into number 5 Georgia primetime game again, I don't know. I mean, Georgia, I do think will play down to Texas's level in this game, but I mean, like you said, they're just the better team in general, so I'll take Georgia.
I agree with you guys. I'm going to take the Bulldogs here as well. Matt Howe, to your credit, it's weird. I agree to say that Texas is still in the phase of trying to figure things out. And I think a lot of it were those rumors that Steve Sarkisian was headed to the NFL. I think that could have affected the locker room in some weird way. And again, Arch Manning, even though he showed up in recent weeks, you look at his performances earlier in the season, where was he at? So I think in terms of talent alone, I would go with Georgia, and the fact that this is in Athens, I'm definitely taking the Bulldogs here. So Tyler, I think, agrees. He went Georgia as well. So next game, interesting G5 game here. Kennesaw State on the road at Jack State. To be honest, I don't know very much about these teams, but I know a few of us pull for Jack State in hush-hush circles. So who do you guys got here?
So I did a little bit of research on this game when I saw that this was one we were going to pick. This is supposed to be very, very close. Solid teams for who they are. I have a friend who played for Rich Rod at Jacksonville State. For that very reason, I got to go with Jack State.
Yeah, when I was picking this game originally, my mind immediately went to Kennesaw State because I mean, like, they have 2 decent losses. I mean, they lost to Wake by 1 at Wake, which, like, I mean, I know we're talking quality losses here, but I mean, then you lose to IU as well at IU, but that was a blowout and it's IU. So what do you want? But looking at teams that they've played and that they've beaten, they haven't really beaten anybody. I mean, it's hard to say for the group of 5, but I mean, it's generally close-ish wins against teams that are kind of meh. I mean, if you pan over to Jacksonville State, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, the one win that stands out to me is against Delaware. Delaware is a very gritty team, and I like it. And they beat them by 2 scores. So
Good
I might
revenge.
actually, I might flip my pick to Jacksonville for this.
We're thinking on the same wavelength here, guys. I'm gonna go with Jack State as well, just for home field advantage. Again, neither team has played anybody of note, so that's what makes it hard to pick here. Spread is very close after monitoring the situation. And I think for home field advantage, I'm going to go with Jack State. And also for our current head coach, Hail Rich Rod. And Tyler Tyler picks Jack State as well. So moving on, they got 2 games left. Boise State on the road to play San Diego State, who just got blown out by Hawaii last week. The Rainbow Warriors are back. Who do we have, guys?
Man, last time I picked Boise, it bit me in the butt. Obviously, they were really, really strong last year, uncharacteristically strong for a Group of 5 team. Still a very solid team this year. And San Diego State has looked good, but I didn't see that happening last week either. I'll go with Boise here. That's it.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna wind up flipping my pick again. I originally picked Boise just because really San Diego State, they're a good team, but Boise was on another level. But I think I might be having my a little bit biased based on recent history. Boise, I mean, they lost pretty handily to USF in the beginning of the year. They lost by 21 to Notre Dame, and they did just lose to Fresno, and that might be the key here because I believe San Diego State beat Fresno. They shut them out. So in terms of like the pecking order, San Diego State's above. So I'm going to take the Aztecs.
Loams, I'm with you. I saw that Fresno loss, and I agree. And also, I think the Aztecs are going to have something to play for after getting blown out in Hawaii. So I think they're going to come out guns a-blazing. I'm picking San Diego State here. Checking on Tyler's picks. He picked Boise. So we're split down the middle. Finally, the game that everyone has been waiting for. West Virginia goes on the road to play the Sun Devils. Gentlemen, without saying too much, who do we got and by how much?
Oh, I didn't think of what my score prediction would be. I got to say, give me the Mountaineers. Love this team. We got a good shot here. Score prediction. I think it'll be a slugfest. I don't think it'll be very high scoring. I don't think either team will get into the 30s. But I think it'll be a tough, hard-fought win. Maybe I think it'll be within a score if we get it. So I'm going to say maybe something weird like 28-22.
So last week.
Yeah.
Pretty
much. I think that the line is very fair for this game. If I remember correctly, it was 10.5. I think that's going to be pretty accurate. Arizona State, like you had said in the beginning, they would be, really making a run if they still had their quarterback. And I mean, Jeff Sims is good. They're making it work. And I think that some people are probably disregarding them based on their quarterback being out. But let me tell you, they are still a juggernaut in all aspects of the game. So, like you also said, they've kind of struggled to really put on points. I think it's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of, West Virginia 13, ASU 28 maybe. So the line should be somewhat close, but, within a score.
This is such a hard decision for me to make and a hard game to pick because I want to pick our guys so bad, but I think I'm with Loams. I'm gonna go with the Sun Devils here. However, I think it's a little closer than the spread. I think that if we come out fast, this is going to be a close game. Like we said earlier, if we come out fast, it's going to be a close game, even if we win, which God do I hope we win. That's not the point of the pick 'em, though. I think Arizona State wins by 4. I think Arizona State wins 24-21. That's where I'm going to leave the score.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
So that's going to do it for our pick'ems. And guys,
hold on. Before we move on, I want to say what Tyler's pick was. Very simply, give me the Mountaineers.
No explanation needed. So, yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry, Tyler. We miss you. Before we log off, though, I am going to pull up the Week 12 college football playoff bracket. And here it is. So this was, as of yesterday, the committee's new rankings. And gentlemen, let's just dive right in. I'll tell you right now, BYU should be in there over Miami.
Yeah. I mean, I get it right now. They want to have Texas in, and I guess resume-wise, it's not that far-fetched. I mean, the Florida loss for Texas still looks worse and worse every week, but uh, I don't think that's going to last, obviously. So, like you said, Miami shouldn't be in. BYU should be in, but BYU's best chance to make it in my opinion, will be Texas dropping either this week's game or their game against Texas A&M. And then, yeah, I mean, if Duke raises hell and messes up the ACC, even better, because it'd be very fun to not see an ACC team in the bracket this year.
See, I
Yeah,
would love that.
all I really have to say is obviously this is going to change. The SEC teams that are in right now, I think A&M is essentially guaranteed at least at large because they're undefeated so far. Alabama, I think, has a pretty good shot at being in the SEC championship with them, is what I imagine will happen. But the SEC feels pretty top heavy, especially looking at this bracket. I think Ole Miss will win out. I think Texas will drop at least the Georgia game. Um, I'd have to look at Georgia's schedule again, but I think practically it's going to be a question of do they win the title game if and when they make it there. I don't know, but I think at least one, preferably two of the SEC teams will not actually be in at large. I probably am on the same page as you guys, thinking that BYU should be in. Assuming they went out, I think they should be in. But I'm also pretty high on Utah, and if they went out, I don't know that I would be surprised if they get left out, but I think that they would have a pretty good uh, in terms of being 8-2 and who they compare across other conferences with. I would push for them to be in, even at last place, so to speak, as an at large.
That's fair to say. Again, Loams, I like the argument against Texas because, again, they probably won't be there. What I will say is that the top four are basically just in. We'll see them in some arrangement, and the top four could stay in the top four, just in a different arrangement. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that after last week, the committee of all people did not flip Indiana and A&M after the game that Indiana played against Penn State, where Mendoza had his Heisman moment and saved the game. But I'm surprised those two aren't flipped around. Again, rooting for no ACC team in there. However, Georgia Tech and Miami are the favorites, I want to say, even though there's like not really a favorite to come out of the ACC that you can really say with any honesty. Um, Notre Dame in there, for now. If Pitt beats them, they're not going to be in. So South Florida is also my G5 pick for the moment. If they win the American, then again you got to look at teams like JMU, and you got to look at Tulane. So those are sleeper teams to get in there. However, I think Georgia continues the number 5 ranking throughout. So
Yeah.
those are my 2 cents on it.
Also looking into it, we have a chance for Oregon to wind up dropping out. Given the matchup this week for USC and Iowa, that's going to be potentially another ranked win for USC. Then the next week they go into a matchup against Oregon. So theoretically, it's a chance for USC to then slide into Oregon's spot, and then going into the final week, Oregon also plays at Washington this year, which could be another game that they could drop. So USC is definitely in a prime position to steal a playoff spot.
That's a good point. And honestly, I heard this from I think it was Joel Klatt talking about if we're in a position to decide between Miami and Notre Dame who gets in, Miami gets in because of the head to head. No ifs, ands, or buts. And while I don't like Joel Klatt most of the time, I do agree with him on that. Because we were arguing the other day, like how much weight do you give the head to head? I think in a playoff scenario like this, you have to give the head-to-head a little bit more credibility than, like, say, a regular top 25. So I agree with him there. If we're in an impasse there, you got to give a team a head-to-head. Other than that, I'd like to see BYU in there. I have no qualms about it for now. So cool. If you guys don't have anything
Yeah,
else
no,
to add,
I'm all
okay.
good. I'm all ranted out, I think.
Yeah, that covers all the bases.
Fair enough. So, you guys don't have anything else to add, we'll go ahead and wrap up the episode. So that is going to do it for us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video. It really helps us out in the algorithm. Follow the Instagram, follow our X. Tyler does an awesome job over there. And don't forget about our Spotify. So, again, that is going to do it. From me, from Matt Howe, and from Matt Loams, we will see you on the next episode.
Goodbye, America.